Well, good day to you. It is October the 5th. I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you're new. Welcome you back, of course, if you have been here before. Now, if you haven't noticed, in the description portion of every one of these videos, I have links that take you to websites that I think give you really good background information about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. Why are they coming back now? Why is it important that these masters and Maitreya are coming back at this particular time? And of course, what does it mean for everyone that they're doing this? Now, also, there are links to websites that really just talk about the priorities of Maitreya, like the need for peace, the need to save our environment, and those kind of things, and kind of how to do it. So hopefully you'll look into some of those links because they talk about this information in different ways. But, and also hopefully at the very least, they can help kind of quell some of your concern about who and what you might be thinking Maitreya is based on just hearing a video. So that's why they're there. Now, I also would like to thank Spirit Watcher 178, Lines and Lines, Peaceful Energy, and Vanessa Rivera. You just got your question in a nick of time. Your timing couldn't be better. For commenting. And if you want to comment or ask a question, you can post your question in the comment section. You, of course, can comment in the comment section, or you can email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. All right. Now, Peaceful Energy is calling me out on something. He doesn't realize he's doing it, but they are. So anyway, the question that they asked was, do I do transmission meditation? And yes, I do, and I've done it for years, but I haven't been doing it quite as much as I've been wanting to do it. And I have this nagging, thought all the time about how I need to get back into it and do more transmission meditation because it's a very powerful and potent service for the world, and I've been kind of slack about it. So anyway, thanks for calling me out on that. Now, if you don't know what transmission meditation is, I do recommend going to the link that says shareinternational.org. It takes you to the Share International site. There is a lot of information about transmission meditation. You can even watch videos from Benjamin Creme about what transmission meditation is and the benefits that it gives to the world and also to the person who's participating in it. And if you are living near a group that's already established, there's information about how to get in touch with them. So that's why I think it's probably best just to go to the Share International site and kind of get it from the horse's mouth rather than me rehashing it. But I will say this. It is a powerful and potent service meditation. So if you're somebody who's into meditation, this fulfills one of those roles. If you were somebody who wants to help the world and maybe isn't doing anything or doesn't know how to help the world at this moment in time, it's a very powerful way to serve humanity in that way, according to the masters. So it is a very simple meditation. It's a meditation that anybody above the age of 12 can do. But it's important to do it exactly how it's prescribed to be done. And a lot of times when people start new groups, they want to add this little bit and maybe say something a little differently this way or add this kind of ritual. It's best just to do it kind of how they tell you to do it. But it is a group meditation. And according to Benjamin Creme himself, in the future, when more and more people are wanting to help the world, because of being inspired by these masters, inspired by Maitreya and all that kind of stuff, and also being inspired by the fact that we're sick and tired of living in a world with all the problems that we have, it's going to be a meditation that thousands upon thousands of more people, perhaps even millions of people eventually, will do. Because it's a way that you can work hand in hand with these masters energetically. So I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, check into that if you're somebody who wants to know more about transmission meditation or even just wants to know about how to help the world and you don't know what to do with it and don't know where to start. So thank you very much for the question. Thank you for calling me out on that. The fact that I haven't been doing it as much as I would like to. But anyway, now, Spirit Watcher 178, you asked a couple questions via email. One, you sent me a YouTube clip about an alien portal and what Maitreya's thoughts were on it. Okay, so you even said, ask your Maitreya, which you didn't spell Maitreya right, by the way. I meant to tell you that. It's spelled differently than that. What he thinks, and I'm not being sarcastic, okay, at all. If anyone would know, I would think he would. Yes, he would know. The problem is that I don't have that kind of connection with him where I can just ask him a question and he gives it to me. Benjamin Creme could. He typically would ask his master, and his master would answer the question in that way. But I can only give you my opinion on it. I know you're not asking me my opinion, but based on what I saw, it's not an alien portal. And the only reason why I would say it's not an alien portal is because according to my information, there's no such thing as an alien portal. So that's the reason why I say it the way that I say it. So I try to present this information as just information and look at it from that standpoint and not from me trying to ram something down your throat or try to get you to saying that I disagree with what you're saying or whatever like that, which I guess in a way that I am, but I'm not trying to present it in that way where I know everything and you don't. You see what I'm saying? That's why I always like to present it like this is just information for you to look at, for you to think about. If you believe it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. But according to the masters, the UFOs that come to this planet are not coming from another dimension, another solar system. They're only coming from our sister planets, mainly of Venus and Mars, but a few of the other ones, Saturn and Jupiter in the main, where those four would be the ones that basically come to this planet. Now, the other thing too is they are coming from those planets, but that humanity lives on one or other of the etheric planes, which is just a higher level of physicality. So if you were to talk to a scientist today, right, and ask them, what is the physical universe made up of? They would say solid, liquid, and gas. Is there anything else? No, that's it. Because that's all they can see under a microscope. But actually, there are 4 other levels of physicality that they don't know about yet. Now, there was one level of etheric that was proven scientifically by Wilhelm Reich, a contemporary of Sigmund Freud. I don't know when he lived per se, but it's well over 100 years ago that he probably discovered this. Tremendous discovery for humanity, but most people are totally unaware of it. But he discovered one of these levels of physicality. He called it the orgon. But these masters will talk about it more and more about the fact that there are 7 levels of physicality and not just 3. And that's where these space brothers and sisters are coming from. That's why if you were to go to Mars, go to Venus, go to Jupiter or Saturn or any of these other planets, the humanity on those planets are living on one or other of those levels of physicality, not the dense physical that we are used to and that we can see. So when these UFOs present themselves to humanity or to a person or whatever, they lower their vibration down enough to where we can see it, because most people can't see the etheric plane because it's so fine and so light our eyes physically don't see it. There are a few people that can see the etheric plane, but very, very, very few people at this moment in time, as of the recording of this video, can see the etheric planes. Now the other thing too is the work and activity of the UFOs and the Space Brothers and stuff keeps them busy in our skies all the time. Because according to Benjamin Creme, if you had etheric vision, if you looked up in the sky, you would see hundreds of them at any given time. So this video might be one of those. I don't know. I can only just say I don't know. But the thing that he also said about the etheric planes, and this is probably more important than just the discussion of alien portals or UFOs or things like this, is about the pollution and the damage that we're doing to the environment is directly related to the etheric planes. Okay, so if you were to talk to a scientist or an environmentalist or an environmental activist even, right, their main concern, the main topic of debate and discussion is climate change, which according to the masters is a very real and very serious problem that humanity is causing, and left unchecked could damage the environment enough to where we can't go back from it. Now, the masters would also tell you that that's not the biggest problem. It's the invisible peril of nuclear radiation. And if you were to talk to a scientist about this, they would say, well, nuclear power is safe the way that we do it. I mean, we put Geiger counters right next to containment, containers and reactors, and if it's a military vessel and that kind of thing that's powered by nuclear power and that kind of stuff, we put a Geiger counter right up to it and it's not measuring anything, henceforth, ergo vis-a-vis, it's safe. But that's actually a myth. And it's a myth only because a Geiger counter only measures nuclear radiation on the very lowest, densest level of it. That there's actually radiation above that has to do with the etheric radiation. And it goes right out through the containment and the lead and the concrete and goes right out into the atmosphere. It's so light, it's so fine. It goes right up into the upper atmosphere, and every raindrop contains some form of nuclear radiation. It's terrible. It affects our food supply, affects the water. Everywhere we live and move and have our being is affected by this radiation that we can't see, can't taste, can't smell, so therefore it's not there, but it's there. And when Maitreya is out known for who he is, one of the first things that Ben's master said that he is going to advise humanity to do is to turn off all the nuclear reactors right now. And we do have a safer way of doing it. We already have the technology to be able to do this through, is it fusion or fission? I think it's fusion. Anyway, I always get those two terms confused. Anyway, the way that we're doing it now is cheaper, so companies make more money doing it. And that's the only reason why they do it. Commercialization, it's a curse. And but it leads to this the nuclear waste that's very toxic and takes thousands of years to clean up, right, and to eventually neutralize. We do have another technology that the isotope, after it creating this power, would lead to clean drinking water. But it's more expensive, meaning less profit. That's the reason why they don't do it. So Maitreya is going to encourage humanity to switch over to this other way of doing it that's safer, more stable, and cleaner, until we put war behind us forever and we become a peaceful people. And then Maitreya will allow the Space Brothers to give us the same technology that they use, called the technology of light, which will totally transform life on this planet. The way we travel, the way we build things, the way we build artifacts, medicine even, will all be transformed by this technology. But he will not allow them to give that to us until we become a truly peaceful people. Again, starts with the principle of sharing. But according to the masters, this world would almost be a dead planet if it wasn't for the work and activity of the Space Brothers. We would be very, very sick indeed, even with their work and activity, if it wasn't for our own immune system. But the reason why certain diseases keep cropping back up or resurface after centuries of being dormant or diseases such as Alzheimer's is an example of this, where the brain shrinks, is because of nuclear radiation and the effects that it has on the physical body over time. The only reason why more and more of us aren't sick in the way that, sicker or dying, is because our immune system is really good. It's just when it's dealing with something as toxic as nuclear radiation, other viruses, cancer viruses and so forth, can slip in and cause all sorts of problems. That's why there's more and more disease now than there has ever been. But it's also because everything that we eat, everything we drink, every breath of air that we take in is all just saturated with nuclear radiation. So that is that. I know it's more than what you were asking. But anyway, you know me by now, Spirit Watcher 178, that I give you a lot for free, and I give you more than what you bargained for, I'm sure. All right, now the next question you asked was, every document, book, and reference in these 100-plus-year-old books, this comes up in the back page every time. In the book, Sir Francis Drake's Secret Mission to Oregon in 1579, the Queen, after all was in line up, had to get the final decision approved by the Immortal Seven. My question to you is, are the Immortal Seven and the Masters one in the same? I would say no. And the only reason why I would say no is, so in 1579, the Masters were still living apart, away from humanity, not guiding humanity directly. And at that time, they weren't expecting to come back for another 1,000 years from now. And so a world leader would not even think to even go to them for any kind of advice or any kind of guidance on anything. So I would say no. The Masters, even to this day and on into the future, are the custodians of all the energy that are coming into this planet, because energy, all in life is energy, and that energy is a life. It has a consciousness. It has a function. It's not just out there and just, whatever, willy-nilly. They are in control of it. They send it to this region, pull it away from that person, that region, and move it over to here, and they're doing this all the time to stimulate the growth of humanity, keep humanity safe, but not only for humanity, but also for the lower kingdoms as well, and that kind of thing. And they're doing this moment to moment. Even if you were sitting there talking to you, they would be doing it, and you'd be totally unaware of the fact that they're doing all this stuff. And so there's other things that they do too that we're unaware of as well. But a lot, like I said, a lot of it has to do with the energy. And this is where transmission meditation, the question that I just answered, fits in, because the work of the transmission groups is to lower that energy even further to make it more accessible for humanity. That's the service that they play. But these masters are transmitting energy all the time. And then the other thing that they were doing up until now was working indirectly through and guiding and teaching humanity indirectly through their disciples in the world. So they weren't guiding humanity directly at that time. I don't really know this for sure, I'm only guessing, but one of the first times, if it wasn't the first time, because Benjamin Creme said that he met with Willy Brandt not long after entering London in July 19th, 1977. But once the masters started to move into some major cities and live in some major cities kind of in secret, Maitreya then went into London on July 19th, 1977 and moved into the Asian community of London. Now, one of the first things that Benjamin Creme said that Maitreya did was he met with the former Chancellor of Germany, Willy Brandt, and he asked him to come up with a blueprint for the principle of sharing that economists would understand. And he asked him to bring a group of people together with various extreme ideologies of political ideologies and economic ideologies and so forth. And he brought this group together of people of various viewpoints, and they created this consensus, and it's called the Brandt Report. And I believe you can go online and you can find it. If you wanted to read it, I know some people who would have a copy of it, but it would just take me a while to get them to give it to me. But anyway, but I think, like I said, I think you can go online and you can look at it. But the Brandt Report was quite an extraordinary piece of work, a miracle in and of its own right, because it was a true consensus. It wasn't even done by a democratic vote, actually, and come up with. They took the best of this person's idea, got rid of the stuff that wasn't the best and so forth, and put it all together, and boom. But it's supposed to be so they can hand it off to economists in the future and politicians in the future once we start looking at the principle of sharing seriously on how to accomplish that. And it was all done under the inspiration of Maitreya, and it was done under the guidance and suggestion by Maitreya. And that would have been, I think, one of the first, or maybe the first time that they, in known history, that they approached humanity and directed humanity directly in that way, having to do with the principle of sharing. And then there have been other times where Maitreya was counseled someone about, let's say, like with the King Hussein of Jordan, the former King Hussein of Jordan, where he asked the King Hussein of Jordan to give up some of the land of Jordan for the Palestinians, which he did, and then the Israelis came and took it back, that kind of thing. But so in those kind of ways, he's helped out. He also visited, apparently, Nelson Mandela in prison and encouraged him to write a letter to the then president, F.W. de Klerk, who Maitreya knew that F.W. Klerk was having doubts about him being in prison, was feeling guilty about him being in prison, and was having a change of heart. And he knew that if he just wrote him, he would change his mind and release him from prison, and which he did eventually. Then he released him out a little bit more into a different building or something like this, and then he was eventually released and so forth. So those are some examples that I can think of off the top of my head where Maitreya was, I'm sure there's been others that I don't know about yet, but that would be one. But 500 years ago, I don't think they were directing humanity in that way. So anyway, but who and what the Immortal Seven is, I don't know, so hopefully that helps. And then lastly, like I was saying, Vanessa Rivera, you got your question in just in a nick of time, because I was in the middle of recording this video when I saw your question. All right, so what did you have to ask? I understand that Jesus is one of the masters and has never left. He has stayed to help mankind. What role will he have when all of this is revealed? Yes, he is one of the masters. Yes, he never left. And yes, he is here to help mankind like all the other masters who choose to stay behind and help. Most masters go off to higher planets or other solar systems to do higher work, but some of the masters choose to stay, and anytime they choose to stay, it's to help mankind for sure. What will his role be? Well, according to Benjamin Creme, his role will be to help the churches, and guide the churches in a way. So the way I kind of see it, I do think that Jesus will have a broader role than just that, because people are very familiar with who and what Jesus was and is and so forth historically, right? So I'm sure they'll have a lot of questions to ask, and it wouldn't matter whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or Jewish or an atheist. If you had a question and you were able to ask him, I'm sure he would take the time to answer it for you. I do think that he will have a very broad role in terms of teaching humanity about the laws of life in the same way that some of these other masters like the Master Moria might have, but he will be asked by the churches to help him. So none of these masters, when they start to take up these roles, in helping humanity, will just do it on their own. They'll have to be asked in some way, shape, or form, so that the human free will isn't infringed upon. So once Maitreya declares himself on the day of declaration, according to Benjamin Creme's master, he will start to introduce these masters one by one by one. And I do think that Jesus will either be the first or second, maybe third, but I doubt it. I think he'll be the first one that he introduces. And I've also thought, and this is just my thinking, that the current Pope, Pope Francis, if he is still alive and still the Pope when all this goes down, is humble enough and doesn't seek power the way that some people throughout history have, especially in that role as Pope. He will be enough for the people, I guess, is a way, and to me has a true sense of what his role really is. I think that he will step to the side and allow the people to ask Jesus questions and to ask him for his guidance, and not say, no, this is my role, you don't have anything to do with this, like some people probably would, or some popes maybe would have done that, And then I think that they will ask him, and there'll be probably times that people will ask him, what did you mean by this when in the Bible? And I never said that. You guys put that in there. Or I didn't say it like this. I meant it like it was meant to be said like this. Or this should have been added in because it was taken out by you guys, or something like that. And so this would help you to understand this better. But I also think he'll start talking about the laws of life, same things that he was talking about 2,000 years ago. The law of karma, the law of cause and effect, the law of rebirth or reincarnation, because a lot of that was taken out of the Bible. Well, not all of the law of cause and effect, but the majority of the teachings that he was teaching about the law of cause and effect was purposely taken out. So I'm sure he'll start talking about this and putting it in, and that in and of itself, I think, will start to maybe possibly ease some of the fears that people have about death. I'm sure he'll clarify who and what he is as not being the only true Son of God, like so many people falsely believe, that we are all sons of God. And for a lot of Christians, maybe not all of them, but some of them, maybe more open Christians, will start to trust that and maybe see that could be some truth to that, and it will get rid of some of their fear and their guilt around what they've come up to, and what they've known to be the truth for them about their religion. But Krishnamurti said that in any ideology there's an authoritarian, right? And the churches are no different. And so anytime you have, like I said, anytime you have that authoritarian, you have oppression and enslavement in a way, whether it's enslavement of the mind or physical enslavement or whatever. And I do think that as he starts to talk to people about the truth of what the Bible is really saying, and what was supposed to be said and what was not said and that kind of thing, or what he didn't say that maybe man put in there, people will start to feel a little bit more free about their spirituality. And even some of the Christians who perhaps are very hardcore Christian today might feel that yoke is being lifted off their shoulders, and they feel freer to be who they are. Maybe perhaps even more tolerant of somebody else's belief, in that way, based on what he's saying. It's a difficult task that he has, for sure. I cannot imagine how difficult it is to cure humanity of the curse of that conditioning and that dogma. It's just the roots are so deep that it's got to be a difficult job for anybody, even a master of his stature, to be able to do that. But I think that's what he'll do, is he'll free humanity up from the ideology that Christians have enslaved humanity in that way for so long, eventually. Initially I think he'll take some doing, but he'll have to be asked. Like I said, he'll have to be asked, like all these other masters, mean, there'll be, every one of Maitreya's priorities, there will be a master working with humanity in that way. You know, the other master that I think about from time to time in terms of his role is the Master Kuthumi, who was the Apostle John. And it's been said that his role in the future will be to awaken the hearts of all humanity. Now, who has the more difficult task? I don't know. I mean, they're both. I would much rather be a master that's in charge of beautification of the cities, to be honest with you. But the other thing, too, that I think is worth talking about in terms of this is the roles that humanity has in all this, right? Is that there's people today who don't feel that their voice matters, don't feel that they can contribute anything, perhaps are even living in extreme poverty today, and the only thing they can think about is the next food because they're either really extremely food insecure or starving to death. And when all those things are taken care of, and more people are starting to realize that they are free to be who they are, and they start to understand what Maitreya is saying about we're all divine souls and we have a purpose here on this planet at this time, rather than just asserting their opinion on the internet like so many people try to do today, they'll look for a form of service to humanity, which is what we should be doing, right? And a lot of these masters, when they're not going to do it on their own, so they're going to need us to help them, whether it's the beautification of the cities, whether it's the free interchanges of people, or the cleaning up of the internet, or the introduction to the mysteries, or the principle of sharing, or those kind of things. All these principles that are these priorities that Maitreya has are going to evolve humanity. So more and more of us will start to see a field of service that's available to us that we would be good at, that will open up for us because these masters are who they are. And we'll be able to look to them and help and seek their help and their guidance in that way. That's going to be the total transformation of humanity, really, is not so much what people are expecting is once Maitreya is out known for who he is, then all the problems will be solved. I don't think that's going to be like that. I think it's a gradual process that will happen over and over. And then there'll be people who will gravitate toward helping people in the churches understand the meanings of some of these scriptures that are twisted and turned around and perverted and just totally misunderstood or totally wrong, you know what I mean? Which I think is what Jesus's role will really be for the long term, you know what I mean? So it's a tremendous task that he has. I do not envy him whatsoever. I remember Benjamin Creme used to always say that. He goes, you'd either think of it enviably or not enviably. I'm more in the latter. So I would not want his job, So anyway, I think I answered all the questions, or at least tried to. Love you guys. Have a great day wherever you are. Stay safe, and I look forward to talking to you again in future videos. You guys take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.